Some of the things I do is overseeing programs that we offer, such as response to instruction, English learner programs, high school intensive programs, instructional coaching, and early literacy. So this year, I wanted to bring in some of our amazing specialists for some of these programs so you could hear more about what they do to support your students. Today, I am pleased to have Dr. Nathalie Longree with me, who is our amazing early literacy specialist. Welcome, Nathalie.
Thank you.
Why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your background? How long have you been in education? All of that.
Sure, I'm really happy to be here. I love literacy and I love working for Connecting Waters. This is my 27th year in the field of education, and I'm the mother of two college students. So I've raised two students from birth through college and probably beyond. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I've been a teacher and assistant principal. I was a language and literacy coordinator for the Alameda County Office of Education in Hayward for 15 years. I have both a multiple subjects and a single subject credential, as well as a literacy specialist certificate. I am also certified BCLAD to teach both French and Spanish in all grade levels and all subjects. And I have taught every single grade level except for fourth and fifth. And I currently at Connecting Waters teach eighth grade English in person at CWeb, and I also teach English language development class as well as French and Spanish.
Wow, we are so lucky to have you. Can you tell us a little bit more about the things that you do for Connecting Waters besides teaching?
Right. So in addition to teaching, I'm also an ES. And then, my big passion is that I am the literacy specialist. And you might have seen me in some of the trainings. So I do parent trainings and ES trainings. I also consult and give advice to parents and ESs when they're having, questions and want to, I guess, pick my brain on what more they can do for their children if they think their children are struggling with reading. So those are some of the things I do. I reach out to ESs. I look at data. Of course, we always look at data to see what's going on and see how we can better meet the needs of our families.
Awesome. And as an early literacy specialist, what's one or two things you'd like parents to know?
Well, one really important fact is that language and literacy are inextricably linked. So the more you speak and interact with your child from birth on, the more you're going to prepare them for success when they enter kindergarten and are preparing for read. So speak to them, talk to them, explain what you're doing, kind of broadcast things that are going on. I'm cooking now. And so just really, a really, really language rich environment is extremely important. Talk about the world, go on field trips. And then another important fact for early children is the importance of phonemic awareness, or really children being able to distinguish the smallest meaning of sounds in a language. And so introduce them to read rhymes, read nursery rhymes, play with language with them. It's really, really important. And it really is the building block to reading. So you can start that also from a really young age and have a lot of fun with it. Another thing that we need to know is that once we have this great foundation with a lot of rich language, a lot of rhyming words and kids really hearing the sounds of language, whether it's in English or the language you speak at home. As students begin formal schooling, we really should continue to read to them a lot. So you still should be reading to them, from the time they'll sit down and listen to a book, but continue to read aloud to them as much as you can. I mean, honestly, if you could read an hour a day to them aloud, I highly recommend that. Ask them questions about the book, have them repeat things. And then another component as they enter kindergarten is we really do need to teach them how to read, to be able to read on their own. And that's very different. Read aloud serve a great purpose in continuing to build vocabulary and having students learn about stories and plots and informational texts, which are aligned with the ELA standards. But in addition to that, we really need a strong focus on teaching them first letter names and then letter names and sounds and phonics, and having them practice putting words together and blending words. So it does, and they need a lot of practice doing that because reading for most students requires a lot of practice. Another really interesting thing, which is really new, is that brain researchers have discovered that reading is not a visual memory process. In fact, we can identify and name words faster than we can identify and name faces. And that's how researchers started looking into it. And the reason why they found out is that we use our brain's filing system where we have a vocabulary to read words. So it's not processed in other visual memory, it's processed in our vocabulary. So oral worlds really are, they're stored together. So again, reinforcing vocabulary, talking to kids a lot. And then of course, when you teach them a word, show them how it's written. Of course, you're not going to show a kindergartner a 3-syllable word, but again, really a lot of speaking, a lot of reading, a lot of writing. And then last, I mean, really important is find books that your children love to read. We really want them to be passionate about reading, model that you're excited about reading, and find them books that they'll read.
That's awesome. As you were talking, I was having flashbacks to my children. And when my children were probably about 3 years old, I would have them pick up their favorite book and then they would pretend to read it to me. They would just tell a story, even though it wasn't anything that was actually on paper, but they just kind of developed that love for storytelling and oral language and reading. And so then they would just pick up books and start reading it to grandparents. And everyone was so impressed, but they really weren't reading. They were just storytelling, but we just did everything we could. And I think it must have worked because they're both in college and one is in law school. So it was really fun. So what is the best, when should parents contact you, Nathalie? And what is the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, and I think one of the big misconceptions sometimes, sometimes we notice that parents in the early grades might be focusing too much on just reading aloud to their kids and not enough on the phonics piece and the decoding piece and the fluency piece. So having kids start to slowly practice reading. And then some people may be really focusing on having their students learn to read the phonics of fluency piece on their own, but not enough with the read aloud. So just a reminder, as someone who, even taught graduate school, right? Our goal is for our students to be, really strongly literate. And what that means is that they're really bringing a lot of their background knowledge and critical thinking when they read. They can understand and navigate complex sentence structure and words they might not know. And to get to this high level of critical thinking, we really need to be teaching those ELA standards. And a lot of those can be taught in the younger ages through the read aloud. So we've got to make sure that we're using a standards-based curriculum, that we're really focusing on teaching the English language arts standards. And part of that's going to come, especially in kinder and first and second, continuing to read a lot to them and build a vocabulary and really teach the vocabulary that the text suggests you teach. And then in addition to that, we do have to have them practicing reading. And if you feel like your child after that is just really struggling, I assume most of the parents come to me because it's issues with the students being able to read and the students not progressing. You can definitely contact me if you have any questions, if you're not sure about what curriculum to use. Maybe you've tried one or two things and those aren't working. I can give recommendations. Sometimes ESs come to me or parents, and I can work with them. It might be time to give some additional assessments for them as well. So I can give you advice on assessments, on curriculum, on strategies to use. And just another reminder, before you contact me, check out the benchmarks. Those benchmarks are posted and in your ed plans. There's a link to those benchmarks. And so they kind of tell you where the standards hope that your children are and some of the activities you should be doing. And then again, if all that's not working, or even if it is, but you have some questions, you're still concerned, the best way to reach me is by email. And my email address is nlongree. So that's NLONGREE @cwcharter.org. And if you forget my name or email address, you can just ask your ES that either you'd like she or he, or you would like to contact me, and they would be able to get you my contact information as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Nathalie, is there anything else you'd like to share with the viewers?
I just really think, start by reading to your kids, speaking to your kids a lot, reading to them a lot, asking a lot of questions, exposing them to a lot of different types of, activities and content area, and, really build that passion for reading. and we are here to support you. There's a lot of support, extra support, if you feel like you still have some questions. I do also have a background, although we don't have programs specifically for bilingual education, but if you have questions about your child who's bilingual, you can certainly ask me as well. And I think that's about it.
Awesome. You're speaking my language. Well, that is about all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Nathalie, for joining us today. And I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in to the Connecting Waters Tiger broadcast, where we have been personalizing education for the past 20 years. And remember, parents, you are your students' most important asset in their education. If you liked the broadcast, please like our channel and share the broadcast with your friends. Don't miss next week's exciting broadcast on September 19th with our very own ES advisor, Amy Parsons, who will be interviewing one of our students about this year's yearbook committee. Thanks so much for tuning in.